Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Gremlins, the 1984 classic horror Christmas movie, kids movie, I guess. I watched it as a kid. I don't know if I watched it in 84. I was only, I was 4 years old back when this movie came out, so it probably took a while for me to watch it. I haven't revisited this movie or this franchise in forever. I will be reviewing Gremlins 2 next week. But yeah, I dipped my toes back in, actually just dove right back into the Gremlins universe, rewatching Gremlins. And, does it hold up? Nah, it's okay. It's okay. Out of the two, I think one is a little bit better than Gremlins 2, but I'll talk probably more about that in the next review. But this one's okay. I mean, it's the inventor dad's kind of out trying to make deals, which the inventor dad is kind of adorable. He's a sweet guy throughout this movie. He's literally just invents things and he tries to sell them. For whatever reason, I mean, this movie takes place during Christmas time. For whatever reason, they have inventor conferences on Christmas. So he is out of town when a lot of this movie takes place. But he's looking for a gift for his kid, goes into this old Asian man's shop, or he gets led there by a kid that he meets on the street of Chinatown. He goes into this shop that's just got a bunch of different, it's like a thrift shop that just has just tons of different things. And he's trying to sell this old man on his like bathroom buddy or whatever, and is hearing this adorable little singing in the background. Comes to find out that it's a gremlin. It's Gizmo. Oh, it ends up being called Gizmo, which is a stuffed animal I remember having as a child. If you shook him, he would make his Gizmo sounds, right? Because his squeaks. Which Gizmo, as far as the adorability, if that's a word of Gizmo, was in question, he holds up. He's not as involved in this movie as I remember. Well, I guess I didn't ever really think about it, but the movie Gremlins doesn't focus on Gizmo quite as much as you might think. But when it does, he's adorable. So he gets this gift for his kid, this Mogwai, and there are some rules for the Mogwai. Can't be around bright lights. Sunlight probably kill him. So no bright lights. Got to be in the dark. Don't feed them. Don't get them wet. Doesn't really say why, but don't get them wet. It's not good. And don't feed them after midnight, which that rule has always bothered me, because at what point after midnight? Like, I get like if it's like 12:30 a.m., probably shouldn't feed them, right? That's after midnight. But what if you wake up super early? You're one of those people that wakes up super early. You wake up at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. At what point is it after midnight to be feeding? Do I have to wait for noon? Maybe from noon to midnight. That's when they're like on a strict, they're on like a strict intermediate fasting kind of program for these Mogwai. But that always bothered me. But of course, the kid gets this Mogwai and everything goes wrong. But there's like some side characters that are very interesting to this movie also. Because the kid, the main character in this, works at a bank. But there's like this evil cat lady. And what I mean evil cat lady, she like goes into the bank. Like his dog apparently broke one of her snowman sculptures out on her lawn, which, believing that she would have any Christmas decorations anyway, not whatever, but she's evil cat lady, whatever. She has her snow thing. She hates this dog. She goes to the bank, cuts in front of the line, whatever. She's just an asshole. She has zero regard for anybody. All she cares about are her cats, really. No, she doesn't care about humans. She really hates dogs. And she like talks about how she wants to kill his dog with her bare hands while he's at work in front of like the rest of the people in town. It's like one of the most evil people, and she's not even the bad guy of this. She gets her comeuppance, which is kind of fun, because eventually all the things go wrong with Gizmo. He ends up getting wet, which when they get wet, they multiply. So now there's a bunch of little adorable gizmos everywhere. But then if you feed them, then they turn evil. And once they turn evil, then they start fucking with shit. And we find out about how gremlins fuck with shit by the town's racist drunk, who just hates everything that's not made in the U.S., blames, everything that's wrong in the world is because of foreign stuff. He's drunk all the time. But he like kind of coins the phrase gremlins because they're the little creatures that come from Asia that get into her electronics and mechanical things and break them down. That's the reason why his Volkswagen Bug doesn't work, because there's gremlins, because it's a foreign car. So you have like evil cat lady, you have super racist drunk guy, not super racist, but definitely racist drunk guy, which for the time, was just probably very just normal. I mean, it was very casual racism, but definitely a racist drunk guy, very xenophobic. And even the gremlins kind of look like there's scenes where like they take over a bar, and for whatever reason the girl is still working the bar as if these gremlins are paying customers or whatever, like, I'm trapped here at work, instead of just getting out. Like there's some goofiness to this movie. I mean, it is like, and I remember it as a kid enjoying it, but also not really getting how stupid it is that anybody would stay working at the bar when it's full of gremlins, of these little monsters. But the way they make these gremlins look almost looks like racist caricatures. Like they are the unwanted problem people of society. And it's kind of weird. They changed the racism for the second film in the series, but the first one, it definitely feels like they're let's just say the character designers really, and costume designers for these characters really were looking at maybe the higher melanin content, urban kind of look and feel, stereotypes, which I find that a little problematic. There's definitely some issues with this movie as far as race. One of the main characters is, I mean, he's a side character, but he's very, I mean, even it's very, it has it's mild problematic parts. Like, I would imagine the only reason Gizmo or Gremlins as a film isn't like quote unquote canceled is because there's no like actor who's been like actively racist. It's just like a lot of themes and a lot of things in this don't hold up in modern society. But it gets really goofy when the gremlins start taking over the city. It's just all mayhem occurs, which is fun. It's fun to watch them, and it's fun to watch their battles, and to see them try and fight these gremlins, these monsters. Everybody's scared. There's this like story, like the love interest in this movie hates Christmas, right? She's a bah humbug, whatever. There's a story she tells of why she hates Christmas, which is insanely dark, right? Especially for a kid's movie. She's talking about this time how her dad used to dress up like Santa and shimmy down the chimney to make it all realistic when he would display the things. But what she didn't know one Christmas, after she lit a fire and the house started filling up with smoke, is that her dad was actually stuck in the chimney, and she killed him by lighting the fire. And he was like pulled, and when the firemen pulled her dad out of the chimney, that's when she knew that Santa wasn't real. It's like, what the fuck? That's it's like the darkest story. First, a crazy story. Like, it's a story that you could almost imagine somebody out there having. Like, somebody had a dad that was really into Christmas, and like for whatever reason got in an argument with his wife about his ability to shimmy down a chimney to be more authentic, and he gets stuck, and the next thing you know, he's dead. Like that almost feels like some Florida Man kind of thing. Um, but yeah, super dark and out of nowhere, and kind of the ridiculous part that if only anybody in this movie had flashlights, it would have been like they're like laser beams. Because the bright lights, they don't like bright lights, it hurts them. So you get some high power flashlights and you're pretty good. But of course, all the drama takes place at night, which is, makes sense. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. I could understand why I liked it as a kid. When it gets goofy and the gremlins start wreaking havoc on the town, you're seeing adults not being able to cope with basic shit. Is all fun. But yeah, it didn't hold up as much as I thought, and a lot more not overt racism. It's not like 48 hours racism, but it's like clearly the writers of this and the people in charge of this didn't really have an issue with the similarities that these monsters have with minorities. But yeah, Gremlins from 1984. I mean, times have changed. I can't imagine. It'd be fun to see a remake. Like if they go real dark on a Gremlins remake and not try and make it for kids, because this is like loosely for kids, but also super dark. But anyway, check it out if you want. I don't know where you can stream it. I own it. But yeah, check it out. Gremlins.
You can bring to reality.
Gremlins 2, the new batch. The sequel to the Gremlins franchise. This one came out in 1990, 4 years after the original. And it is clear that the studio leaned heavily into making it more of a kids movie, where the first one, I think just the adorability of Gizmo as a character and as a product that they could sell really took off. And so they wanted to make the sequel a bit more kid friendly. For whatever reason, and one of the signs of this is that it opens with a Warner Brothers Looney Tunes cartoon intro with Donald Duck or Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Donald Duck. I forget their names now. But kind of a really weird intro to a Gremlins movie. Just has nothing to do with the movie at all. Just clearly trying to make it a kids movie. And now you have the main characters, the same kid from the first one, his love interest. Now they're both living in New York. They moved to the city. He's an illustrator of some kind. They both work for this giant corporation, Clamp. The Clamp building is where this takes place. And Clamp Industries is they do film production, radio production, they do science, it's like they're involved in a lot of different aspects of in different industries, which lends itself to when things go haywire. You have, and the buildings like touted as being the most automated, high-tech building that you will ever find in the world. So of course, as the Gremlins are known for causing havoc in technology, of course, this movie's going to take place in the most technologically advanced building, according to the art designers of Gremlins 2. But yeah, so they're back in the thing. The whole, like, it starts off, the Clamp Industries trying to buy up a block in New York, and the final holdout is the Asian guy from the first movie, the old Asian guy who owns the shop where Gizmo was first purchased, or I guess stolen in some ways from the inventor dad. So he finally and Gizmo's still there, obviously, because at the end of the first one, the old man takes Gizmo back. But yeah, so they're they finally get the thing. They break down the old man dies. They finally get to knock the thing down, and Gizmo has this like scene where he's got to escape as the cranes and things are knocking the building down. which it seems like the bright light rule of Gremlins isn't as followed in this one. They do a lot of things in this film to kind of break the rules. And that science lab that's inside the Clamp Industries building is a big part of that. But yeah, so Gizmo sneaks away. Obviously, he accidentally gets caught by the scientists that work for Clamp. But while working, his previous owner discovers that he's there and goes kidnaps him, and then it all craziness ensues. They have wildly different gremlin characters. I mean, just the Gizmo type gremlin characters, the Mogwai, before they turn into the scary gremlins. Instead of waiting for them to turn into the monster gremlins to make them look racist, like right off the bat, they have probably the most racist kind of stereotypical. Like if you were to think of just movies that have come out that represent Asians in the most stereotypical ways, what would be those kind of two main Asian stereotypes that film has done where it doesn't hold up? Of course, you have the gremlin with the Fu Manchu look, almost looks like the old Asian man that owned the store. And then you have the goofy, wide-eyed, bucktooth Asian-looking one, which I believe was it Pretty in Pink. There's one of those old John Hughes movies that has a really offensive caricature of a race or of an Asian person. So that's what the sequel of Gremlins does. They don't the scary monster gremlins don't necessarily look quite like African American stereotypes, or at least have features of that, or they're not calling upon that stereotypical racist look for this movie. This movie, they wanted to make the adorable gremlins look racist, which is interesting. But yeah, this the drunk racist from the town, the small town that they're in. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Who's taking a visit to New York to see their old pals? Which would be crazy, like to move away from a small town and the neighborhood racist drunk shows up. And it seems like he was planning on staying with them. But of course he shows up just as the gremlin situation is starting to boil over and things are starting to go bad. But yeah, it's mainly takes place inside the Clamp building. All kinds of craziness happens because of the science lab. They engineered different gremlins. Like one of them injects himself with a sunscreen so he can go outside, but he also grew like bat wings. Another one drank like a smart potion, so now he's like just this well-spoken, like kind of aristocratic kind of a gremlin. So it definitely got super wacky, and there was a lot of different types of gremlins that kind of spawned from this movie. Watching everything go bad in the building, like I never really cared. Like the Clamp industry guy and the Clamp industry in general is not like a business model or a business that I'm rooting for. So I'm kind of rooting for the Gremlins to be successful tearing this thing down. But of course, they kind of come together in a way. Kind of the end. It's got some fun moments in it. It's got some fun moments, and it's really self-referential. I mean, it's so much so that there's a scene where like the Gremlins, like if you were watching this movie in a movie theater, there's a scene where the Gremlins break the film. So it makes it look as if you were in a movie theater and you're watching this movie on film, which nobody would anymore, but it would be as if the film actually broke in the projection booth, as if the Gremlins are in the projection booth at the movie you're watching. But the Gremlins break the film, and then there's this like almost outside of the film part where people are complaining and one of the ushers of the movie theater is like, maybe I will take care of this. I know who to get. And he goes into the theater, and it's Hulk Hogan, which Hulk Hogan must have been huge at that moment. And he like stares at the Gremlins in the projector booth and is like, "You better fix this." And then he tears his shirt off because that's what Hulk Hogan did. It's just a really weird, like, there's a lot of, I think, pop culture references from around that time, from the, early well, I guess this came out in 90s, so it would have been like the late 80s, whatever was going on in the late 80s. And there's a scene where Leonard Maltin, who's a famous movie critic and reviewer, apparently has a show through the Clamp production wing of this building, is filming Leonard Maltin movie reviews. And Leonard Maltin was reviewing Gremlins 1 and talking shit about it, which I think was hilarious, because I think probably, I would imagine, the reviews of Gremlins 1 came out. They were kind of probably, here and there, probably scattered, because that movie, not really a kid's movie, not really like a horror movie, not really a Christmas movie, but it has this toy that took off, I'm sure, and this character that's really adorable. And they, moments of that Gremlins 1 was like goofy and weird. And it's like, let's do another one. Let's make a money grab, and we'll stuff in. It's almost like how DC makes their movies. It's like, we'll just stuff in all of the fan favorite stuff. Like, we'll just stuff in references and stuff that have nothing to do with this, but people will like it because they saw Hulk Hogan do the same thing on their TV on a different show. And it doesn't hold up as far as helping the movie in any way, but it's the characters are very, it just really doesn't hold up. Like, I could still see this being a successful movie in some ways for kids, but a lot of those references, like, no kid is going to know Hulk Hogan. No kid is going to know when the film breaks. Like, I mean, movie theaters aren't even open right now, but even if they were, nobody's been in a movie theater with film in it that could break, in forever. So there's aspects of it. I mean, it kind of tried to pump up the goofiness and kind of lean into a lot of the things that people liked about the first one. But overall, it's just a goofy mess, and it wasn't horror. It felt long. It definitely felt long. I don't know what the runtime is on this. Hour and 46 minutes. It felt like it was easily a 2-hour long movie, but when it doesn't have a lot of substance, and it's really just trying to, like, where it's gonna get. You're just watching a movie of Gremlins wreak havoc on things. It was fun. It had its moments, but the first one's better. Just because, I mean, even that, there's a callback to her. She has, instead of her tragic story about her dad dying, pretending to be Santa Claus in the fireplace, she had another tragic story that she was about to go in about Abe Lincoln. But they, skirted her away from the camera when she started to tell it, which was funny. I mean, the callbacks, the references, as long as you get them, they're funny. But if not, it's really just nothing. It's a really kind of a nothing. It's just a money grab in kind of the biggest sense of the word. But yeah, Gremlins 2 wasn't as big of a fan as the first one, but the new batch was pretty sour. Go get yourself some amazing coffee from our friends over at stationhousecoffee.com. Follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. But make sure you order yourself some small batch, single origin, premium coffee brewed in Thetford Center, Vermont, shipped directly to you, no matter where you are. Just hit them up over at stationhousecoffee.com. Give them a follow, Station House Coffee on Instagram, and get yourself some of the best coffee on the planet Earth. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Peace out!